Hey, how's it going? My name is Frank Kanai, and I'm excited to be able to introduce these ideas that I've been thinking about. I'm founder of People Who Grow. Well, the message is to inspire, uplift, and create assets that can transform and change your world. In particular, today I'm talking about this idea of minimum viable teaching. You see, as experts, as creatives, have you ever felt that there's so much knowledge inside of your head that you'd like to push out and teach, but you hold back? And so before you know it, a decade's passed by, 2 decades, several decades, where you've been taking in so much knowledge and there's been very little output. So what I'm teaching you today are 4 different ways to start seeing what you know in a way that you can immediately start to implement and share and create that transformation that can change your world. You see, there's people who want your perspective. So let's go ahead and dive into explaining what these points are. Your perspective is about setting the context, and the context is why does it matter? So it's not just enough to talk about anything. It's about taking what you're saying, addressing it to a particular scenario, and giving it an opportunity to reframe, to see the world. Has it ever happened to you where you're hearing someone speak and then all of a sudden you have that figurative aha, that light bulb come on? Well, in great part that's because your perspective is lightened up. So it's like it's dawned on you. There's this sense of light. You're hearing a message in a way that reaches you and helps you make connections to dormant pieces of understanding you already have inside of you. But all of this begins with your perspective. So another word I can give you for your perspective is your experience. Consider the person you were. Here's an action tip. Consider the person you were 3 years ago and what they had to learn, what they had to go through, grow through to be able to know what you know now. How much would you pay to be able to get that shortcut to your immediate now? Well, none of us can go back in time, right? It's not of wise people for us to look back. But it is valuable if you can take and solidify what you know by creating an action step, list by list, about your perspective and start to teach that. So in my case, the perspective that I really are imbued with is that of teaching, of sharing information and communicating it, as I'm doing right now. And it's also a perspective of low value and doing it imperfectly. I can spend the rest of my life trying to create and build and design and do some of these other skill sets which are necessary, but they're not as important as getting the idea out and communicated. So that's perspective. Start with the context, define why it matters by asking why 3 levels, and then reframing. So giving another view of the same information everyone's seen. That's the key to perspective. But now let's talk about your knowledge, which is the second step in minimum viable teaching. What do you know? So there's the experiential, what you've lived, what you've seen, what you've heard, what you've experienced with your senses. And then there's the information you've acquired. External information through books, courses, experts, other people who talk about the same topic. But if I was to boil it all down, I'd be answering this question. What is it? Give me a what, and you can tell me and lead me. Because now I have, again, a knowing that's specific and valuable. So when you start taking these 3 elements and combining them, now you're starting to talk into this realm of personal knowledge, right? Which is the management of your experiences, your information, the best insights and collections in different packages. Like we have notes, maps, mind maps in this case, and different interlinked notes between the 2. But all this to say, knowledge is only as effective as you can use it to create and uplift and build and share the information with where it matters most, right? Because that's ultimately what's most important. But we don't stop there. What we do is we're going to take that knowledge and actually do something with it. So that's for the next step. Look at it as a bridge. So think about what's your topic and then what's your next level connected to that. So at any given point, there's 3 levels of conversation. There's the abstract, the more point to the fact, and then your more concrete, step-by-step, practical, tactical. All of us prefer one of the 3, but we become effective teachers when we're able to explain the context, give the anchor, which is the what in the case of knowledge, and then teach to the specifics. So the bridge is how you show every rung, if you will, every step. And that's how you're able to connect from one point to the other and to build that little archway in such a way that you have columns. So when you're talking about that, that's where we talk about step by step. The how to do it is really interesting. A really powerful tip that I've learned and I'm sharing with you today is take your knowledge and teach to the mistakes. So for instance, when someone wants to teach something, one of the biggest mistakes I've seen is they overwhelm with information. The second one is they're perfectionist in the sense that they're expecting this high anchor and bar to be set without just simply having fun and letting the information flow. And then the third one is I've seen a lack of confidence in what you're teaching. A lot of doubt in the sense of, well, I'm not good enough. Who could listen to me? Why would anybody pay me any money? When in reality, people want what you have. So that's the bridge. The tactical bridge is breaking it down step by step, which leads us then to the sense of the transformation. Information, plain and put, does no one any good. We don't need more information. What we need is transformation. And so that begins when we can apply what's being heard, you can implement it, and then you can get that quick win. Those three things. And how do you do that? Well, the transformations teaches to take from one step to the next. You do it by appealing to a future version of yourself that you can bring into the current present. So teach to the future self. You do that by asking the question, 1 year from now, what is the one thing that you would have wished you had done from this piece of information you've learned? What has the power to dramatically transform who you are and what you're here to create? You see, questions that invite the future you to come into the present now allow you to see that perspective and to think in a way that you can create and maximize your effect and your power to what you're doing. So we've talked about perspective, we've talked about knowledge, we've built a bridge that gets us there, and now we're talking to the transformation. And again, I wouldn't be effective in teaching if I didn't show how this all connects. When you're able to think viably about what you can teach, you're able to create content. And that content in turn serves to alert others who know and like and resonate with you to come. It's as if though you're creating this table, this feast, and inside of it you have all these beautiful dishes. But first you have to lay out the table and then announce it to the people. But if you don't have that to share, then you're always going to be at a loss, wondering why no one's hearing you. And it all starts with humble beginnings. Don't despise the day of humble beginnings. Some famous, really wise words say. And the same goes when you're sharing, when you're expressing. But in doing so, and continuing to do so in a consistent and reliable way, is how you start. So I talk about productivity, I talk about knowledge, I talk about teaching and the power it has to transform our lives. If these topics resonate with you and there's more you'd like to learn, sign up. Click on the link below or join me and follow me on social media, and let's keep the conversation going. My action step to you is, what can you start teaching today in such a way that you can change, improve, and dramatically grow your life? All right. Talk with you soon.